What's going on, Canes fans? Welcome to the Canecast, brought to you by the Grueling Truth Sports Network, also in partnership with Big Heads Podcast Network, and also about to begin working with Overtime Media. So we've got a few partnerships lined up. We're working on some contracts and some details. It's going to expand the podcast and hopefully bring some revenue to the podcast, which will allow us to get some better sound quality and move where we're at now somewhere bigger and continue to grow the listener base. So really excited about that. Excited to get started with those guys. And so to go ahead and just jump in the podcast today, I'm by myself. I'm your host, Kyle Hinote. Kevin Smith, my co-host, is in Nashville on a business trip. So I'm going to make this podcast quick. I'm not going to break it down as much as I originally intended because I really wanted to bring you guys an in-depth analysis on every individual play in the Central Michigan game and really kind of explain to you what you're looking at. However, this is a podcast. There's no visual, so it's kind of difficult to do that. So I'm going to touch on just a few things, give my opinion. People are kind of confused on who to blame in this game. Is it all players? Is it coaches? Is it scheme? What is it? But had a lot of interaction with listeners on Twitter, and so it kind of gave me something to talk about and kind of line up the whole podcast tonight. We'll talk about the offense, the defense. We've even heard some fans talk about firing Manny Diaz. We'll discuss that ridiculous notion coming up. So to just go ahead and start, let's start with Manny Diaz because everything starts with the head coach. One fault that we have had against Manny Diaz this season so far is Miami coming out slow. To Manny's credit, they didn't come out slow against Central Michigan. They just didn't. Number one possession for Central Michigan ends in a punt. Miami gets the ball. Within 4 plays, we had 3 first downs. That's pretty explosive. That's pretty impressive. We got to the red zone. We punched it in and scored a touchdown. And we did it with a very bad offensive line. People have argued whether or not this offensive line is bad. It is. It's not necessarily bad because the players are bad. It's just very young, and there's not a lot of depth. There's very little experience. And it's just a disaster for your offense when your offensive line is so young. And you saw that in the very first possession when we tried to punch it up the middle, and we got stuffed twice, got 2 yards, and finally got it on 4th down. People are arguing that the play calling should have been a little more complex and we shouldn't have just tried to run it up the middle. I think Danny Hinote understands that. I don't think he wanted to show anything against Central Michigan. I think he kind of fed the offensive line to the fire and just let them learn trial and error. I think he trusted his defense, and I think the coaching staff didn't really panic as much as maybe some people did. And, we kept it pretty simplistic. But, look, we made them punt. We scored. They get the ball back, possession number 2, and it's a 3-and-out. So, again, not a slow start by the defense. They're not making drives. Miami gets the ball back. A couple big plays to Brevin Jordan. We're back in the red zone again. It's 3rd and 2. He calls a draw. I believe maybe it was a draw or a zone read. And it's wide open. And you see yet again, Zion Nelson, a young freshman tackle, miss his block. It's an easy one-on-one block, clear as day. He picks up the block, it's a first down. He misses the block, it trips DJ up a little bit. He's short. I believe the idea in running that zone run play also was, because some people were yelling, why don't you throw it? It's 3rd and 3. It's not the easiest running down when you have a bad offensive line. That's bad coaching. I don't think it's bad coaching. I think the idea was, even if you don't make it, you'll pick up at least 1 or 2 yards, make it 4th and 1 or so, and then you punch it again and you get a new set of downs and you go for the touchdown. So I thought it was a good play call. It obviously worked. It just wasn't executed correctly. And I think a lot of this game the score was what it was due to player error, and that is between allowing Central Michigan to convert, whether it's a 3rd down, whether it's a stop for their defense against our offense, or it's penalties. Very rarely did I think the coaching staff did a horrible job. Now, you can make the argument. Let's move down from Manny Diaz, because I just told you 4 straight possessions, 2 defensively, 2 offensively. Miami did very well. So we didn't start slow. It's a 7-0 lead. We could have kicked the field goal. Obviously, nothing's guaranteed with our kicker at the moment, but we'd have been up 10-0. Or we just execute an easy play, and we're up 14-0. and we're not having this discussion. But either way, not that bad of a start. Manny Diaz, I thought, had the team ready in that sense. So moving down to our offensive defensive coordinators. On Dan Enos' part, I truly believe, that he was conservative on purpose. Look, I'm going to give you a comparison real quick. And yes, this is not collegiate football. I sound like the typical drunk at a bar who talks about his glory days. But when I was in high school, we played for a state championship. We played at Camping World Stadium, same stadium we watched Florida and Miami play in. We had a pretty good team, but we had not a lot of depth. We had a very low number of players, and we had one of the better teams we had to play was our rival. And we had to beat them to go to the state championship. Well, we had to play them twice. We played them once in the regular season for the district championship, which essentially means nothing, and then the playoff game, which means everything. And at that time, we go up against this team, and they're undefeated. We had only one loss, which was to a much bigger school, and we ran about 3 plays. We ran the ball at the middle constantly, and it made no sense. And I watched my head coach at the time, and I myself, not having the understanding of what's going on, I watched a huge stadium of people boo this man and tell him that he's ignorant and he doesn't know what he's doing, and we get beat by our rival 34-14. It was just a drudging, and we think we're not very good. We don't really believe in our coach at the time. We don't really know what's going on. We've been winning all season, and all of a sudden this guy doesn't know what he's doing, and then we roll into the playoffs, and we realize what's going on. The other team showed all their cards. They showed us everything they got. They wanted to win that district championship. They pulled out plays we'd never seen, and they beat us really bad. Well, we roll into the playoff game, and they've shown us everything they got. And we adjusted. We adjusted defensively. We adjusted offensively, and we beat them 27-7. Now, again, this is high school. I understand this isn't Division I collegiate football at the University of Miami. I get it. Don't hold my example against me. Just hear me out. Okay? When you're a team that only has one senior offensively that plays any significant snaps, one senior, that's it. Okay? You're a team with an offensive line that is still learning a new offense, but not only learning, they're just now playing. They're still learning how to even play Division I football, much less learn the plays. Okay? They're still developing their bodies. When you have a true freshman quarterback, when you have a group of receivers who are pretty talented, but they're not explosive playmakers across the board, when you have that, you've got to be a little more conservative. You've got to save what you have that can be effective for games that matter. Okay, people need to understand that we're not playing for a national championship this year. We're not playing we're not really playing to even win the ACC championship, because that's not possible. I don't think there's any chance unless Miami drastically improves that they can compete against Clemson. What we are playing for is recruiting. If you want to get to the ACC championship and stand a chance against Clemson, you got to have talent. Okay, you want to get to the national championship, you have to have talent. Okay, to get that talent, you've got to win games. All right, and when you're young and you have very little depth, even football's football. It's a game. Even in the high school ranks, going to the college ranks, when you're thin and you're young, you save what you've got for the games that matter. You know what games matter? Virginia Tech. So a game against Central Michigan where you can kind of afford to be conservative and maybe the game's a little close, but you can lean on your talent. Okay, great. I've seen good teams do it. I've seen an Alabama team go into halftime and it was 14-7 against the Citadel. That was just last year with Tua. You know what I mean? You think it was because Alabama wasn't very good? No. It's because they're playing conservative and they're they're rotating guys, they're trying things out. That's what I saw against Central Michigan. Offensively, Dan Enos called simple plays. And it was much more simple than we saw against UF and against North Carolina. And I think that he was really testing his offensive line to see how they do. He put more pressure on them. We are excited about Dan Enos because he calls plays around the offensive line that makes them look better than they are. And I think he did do that against Florida. I mean, we ran the ball pretty well, especially out of the Wildcat. We ran the ball all over North Carolina. We obviously ran the ball all over Bethune-Cookman. But now you get into this game where it's under center, up the middle, it's very basic football again, and you see things change a little bit. You also have guys who are older and develop their bodies more on Central Michigan's defensive line, regardless of where they play, against a young 18-year-old kid on Miami's end. So that's my opinion on the offense. I thought only out of all the possessions Miami had the ball offensively, only one time did what Dan Enos was calling not make sense, and that was on the safety. Miami gets pinned back at their own 6. They immediately call a pass play. Now, if you're going to call a pass play backed up, it needs to be something quick, a slant, something fast to get the ball out. We know that Jarren Williams has had an issue holding the ball too long, so we don't know if that was the play call and Jarren just held it. We don't know. What I do know, and what looked really bad, and what continued to prove me correct when I said this offensive line isn't very good, is that Central Michigan rushed 4 guys. Only 4. And they immediately got to Jarren, they hit him, and it was almost a safety, but then it wasn't, right? We run the ball, it gets tackled for loss. Players get blown off the line. Just absolutely embarrassing. The offensive line's not good. So now it's 3rd down. Obvious passing down. People want Dan Enos to be aggressive. Okay, it's time to pass the ball and try to pick up a 1st down. Again, they only rush 4. And they blow it up, and they sack Jarren Williams. I thought in a situation like that, when you know your offensive line's not very good, maybe you roll Jarren out, you get him out of the pocket, give him the ability to use his legs and look downfield. So that's the only time I was kind of down on Dan Enos. I didn't like what I saw there. And then one other time where the majority of the plays in this possession were good, but it's a 3rd down play, it's 3rd and 11, and we go under center, we play action, and an obvious passing down. That just doesn't make much sense to me. If I see those plays against Virginia and Virginia Tech, wasted plays, I'm going to be nervous. I'm going to be worried about our offense under Dan Enos. But in this game, outside of those plays, Dan Enos called a good game. I mean, even on the 2nd possession of the game, Miami marches down the field. They play action. Everyone keeps saying Dan Enos doesn't take deep shots. Well, he did. Jeff Thomas was wide open for an easy touchdown, and Jarren Williams underthrew him. He's had an issue throwing the deep ball. It's something that needs to be corrected, and I think it will. So offensively, one, I really think Dan Enos is saving things and not giving, of all people, Bud Foster a lot of game film 2 weeks before we play Virginia Tech. I think he's just being conservative because he can. And then 2, you saw a young line get wrecked because they're not good yet. A young quarterback hold the ball too long, underthrow a couple passes. And even then, he was ACC Player of the Week. He threw for 250 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. So I just think the offense wasn't as bad as people think. I don't think we were trying to score 1,000 points. If we had an elite offensive line, we probably would have. We were in position to score more than 17 points that we had. We could have had 35 points, at least. So offensively, I'm not super upset. I just think the offensive line's not very good, and I think the wide receivers are average. I just do. People argue with me all the time. No, Pope's really good. Well, outside of being injured, which I think he was in this game, Pope's made no noise all year. He made no noise as a freshman. When you're a highly touted receiver, you got to contribute somehow. He's not been here. I thought Brian Hightower had a better game. It was good to see. He caught some passes. He did fairly well. But no explosiveness. And even our 2 best receivers, and Jeff Thomas and KJ Osborne, any and everything trips up JT. If he catches the ball and a blade of grass is too thick, he's tripping over his feet. He couldn't break any tackles. He's small. Though he is fast and dynamic, he doesn't have the size to break through tackles. He's got to be very elusive, and when he can't, or his feet get underneath him, he's ineffective and he falls. KJ, sure-handed, smart, dependable. I love him. He's not elite by any means. He's not going to catch the ball, break 5 tackles, and take it to the house. Just not going to happen. Our wide receiving core doesn't have Amon Richards. It doesn't have somebody that at any time is just going to take it. We're not elite at that position. I think we have an average group of receivers, or at least that are playing average. And then again, I talked about the play calling being conservative. So you can hate Dan Enos all you want. I'm not against it at all. He's actually going verbatim, kind of in the direction he was when he first started with Arkansas. First 6 games, I don't think he exceeded 24 points. We haven't exceeded 24 points. Then he plays a game against Toledo, non-Power 5 team, and he goes, I believe he only scored 12 points, and they lost. Arkansas lost to Toledo. By game 6, now, my disclaimer is, guys, all I'm doing is saying on paper, he's doing everything according to the way he did it in Arkansas on paper, and the way his offense works when he's working things in. He lost to Toledo. We play Central Michigan, pretty conservative, low scoring. The whole season so far hasn't exceeded 24 points. The second half of the season, again, I've said it before, 55 points on LSU, 45 points on Auburn, 35 points on Mississippi State. Those are very good defenses. Did an excellent job, and his offense was really clicking. Now, they had a better offensive line than we had, so I'm not saying you'll see those same results, but I think you'll see the offense begin to open up more and more as we go on. He's kind of on track with the way he does things. So, not down on him at all. Quarterback play looks good. Offensive line just doesn't look good. Defensively, so this is where the main topic is. I think the main problem lied in this game where I was upset. Guys, we run a 4-2-5 now. We do not run a 4-3. Okay? For anyone who doesn't know, it's very self-explanatory. A 4-3 is 4 down linemen, 3 linebackers, and then your other 4 players are DBs and safeties. Everyone runs a spread nowadays. They spread us out. They put more speed on the field to combat our bigger, slower, run-stopping linebackers. So therefore, we invented the striker position. We take one linebacker out. That would be Zach McCloud. Zach McCloud's not off the field because he's a bad football player. Zach McCloud's just off the field because he's not fast enough. And truthfully, I'd like to see him rotate in with Pickney and Shaq more. But he's still a good player, and we're just playing more striker now. Every team we've played so far runs a spread, and that's what we run. We run a 4-2-5. It took Miami from being one of the worst third down defenses in 2017 to one of the best in 2018 by implementing this setup. You can blitz that striker. You can drop him in coverage. It makes you quicker, more effective. What Baker has now done is he runs that 4-2-5, and that is what is similar to Manny Diaz's defense. Where he's tweaked it is he has a third down package, and I don't like it. I think it will be detrimental to Miami. Again, I'm not going to go through each time, but just some stats to maybe make you agree with me. We would put 4 down linemen and play man and rush 4 or 5 at a time, and probably 80% of the possessions that they had, you would see it be first down, 1 yard gain on the run. They try to throw it incomplete or a 2-yard pass. We just absolutely shut them down on first and second down. It was extremely effective. And then on third down, we throw that whole scheme out the window, and we line up in a 3-2-6. 3 down linemen, 2 linebackers, and now we have 6 players, 6 defensive backs and safeties on the field. That is Bandy, Ivy, and Blades, Carter, Hall, and Knowles. And all we do is rush 3 and give the quarterback all day to split the zone. People have argued with me that zone is effective, it's important, and I do think it should be implemented from time to time to change it up for the opposing offense. But I don't think it needs to be a staple of your defense, and definitely doesn't need to be your 4th down package. Maybe in a 4th and 17, like against North Carolina, you do that, in which we didn't, and we lost. But on a 3rd and 5 or a 3rd and 6, you don't only rush 3 guys. It gives the quarterback all day. If you're a quarterback, what's harder? Imagine yourself as a quarterback. What's harder? 3 guys coming against you and you have 5 or 6 guys blocking for you? And then you get to sit and wait for your receiver to split a zone. No one's covering them tight. They're just covering an area. Or having Hill, Garvin, Rousseau, Patchen, and then a blitz by Shaq. 5 guys coming at you full speed. You have 2 seconds to throw. And then you got Ivy and Blades and Hall and Carter in somebody's coat pocket, and now you have to make an NFL throw. Which one do you think makes more sense on 3rd and long when you've only got 1 play and it's an obvious passing down? Running a 4-2-5, running 4 or 5 guys, blitzing 4 or 5 guys at a time, not blitzing 3, not a 3-man front. That makes no sense. So why is Miami way behind in the country in tackles for loss all of a sudden? Why are they way behind on sacks when we have the most athletic defensive line we've had under Manny Diaz? Because Manny Diaz is allowing Blake Baker to run this 3-2-6 package. And when we do blitz an extra person out of that package, we're blitzing a safety. So we're taking a guy that's built for pass coverage and we're rushing him, and we're taking a linebacker in Shaq and Pickney who's built for run stopping and blitzing and putting them in pass coverage. And that's going to get you demolished against a team like Virginia or Virginia Tech. It's not going to work. There were several times on even 2nd down and 3rd down when we would blitz Hall or we'd blitz Carter, And we're leaving Pickney and Shaq on an island. And these guys are supposed to be covering running backs that are checking down or tight ends that are big and slow, but not receivers. And we're lining them up on slot receivers who are running wheel routes, and they're burning Shaq and Pickney. And if we were playing against a better offensive line who picks up some of these plays, they would have roasted us. There were wide open touchdowns for Central Michigan that they also missed because Shaq got beat or Pickney got beat. Shaq and Pickney are not pass linebackers, not pass coverage linebackers. So as much as I love them, they're good run stoppers. I was disappointed that, one, they weren't very good field generals, getting guys lined up and in place, and two, they can't do well in pass coverage, and that's on Baker. So I don't like this 3-2-6 package. I don't like giving the quarterback all day long when you've got good athletes. You're taking away when it's an obvious passing down. That's when you know it's a passing down. You know they're going to throw the ball. Get after them. Let your tall, athletic defensive ends get after them, and we just didn't. We absolutely demolished their run. They only averaged 1.1 yards a carry. I think it was 31 rushes for 41 yards. It's excellent. It's very good. But their quarterback passed for over 200 yards. And this is not good. Central Michigan had 21 first downs. I will say a third of those first downs are from penalties. Miami just got themselves penalized time and time again because they'd be out of position late. They'd try to recover. They'd grab somebody's jersey or do something ridiculous. That comes with youth. I've told people before that it's just hard on a team altogether when you're as young as we are this year. You know, I know everyone wants to scream and spit. It's Central Michigan. It's still difficult for these guys. Also, it's a new defense. There's new schemes. There's new jobs that they're given. These guys are young, and you're just going to see that. So even though 21 first downs is a lot, it's not as bad as you think it is. Central Michigan didn't, and as much as I hate the third down package, Central Michigan didn't run all over us. They only really converted 2 or 3 big-time third down conversions on that 3-2 package, which is why I don't like it, because I thought man would be more effective. But they only had 6 third down conversions in the game. Now, if this was Virginia, there were several times in that 3-2-6 package, that zone, in which the wide receiver was wide open for a first down. The quarterback just didn't see him because it's Central Michigan, and we're just a little better. Or he threw it and the guy dropped it. Central Michigan had a ton of drop passes. That helped Miami a lot. It was just very evident to me that this zone will always get picked up. You're going to get demolished. You want to know why Florida State went and hired Kendall Briles, and they're scoring all these points, and they think that's going to matter, and that's going to make them better. But then they play Boise with a true freshman quarterback, and they're at their own house. And Boise, this freshman quarterback, brings them back and beats Florida State. You know why? Because they ran zone the whole time. They'd rush 3, drop everybody back, and play zone. And it looked like Mark D'Onofrio defense. And that's exactly what Blake Baker's doing. But just on third down. First and second down, we're absolutely killing it as a defense. And then he just throws the whole scheme out the window. And that's going to be on Manny Diaz. If it costs us important games, if it costs us going to the ACC championship, it's going to hurt us, and it's going to be on Manny Diaz. And he's fired guys he knows before. I'm not saying by any means Blake Baker needs to be fired. It just needs to be corrected. It needs to be fixed. I understand that we're young in the defensive backfield, so maybe sometimes we run zone to, give them a break and help them a little bit, but we have the defensive line to get pressure. It's easier for a corner to know, hey, my only job is to play one-on-one right here for 3 seconds and let my D-line go eat, rather than, hey, I got to cover this whole area. I've got to read several players, and he's going to get all day to throw. That's not easy for a young guy. You just don't do that. So that's my woes with the defense. I wasn't very impressed. But ultimately, the story of the day was penalties. That really killed the score. And, guys, the 17-12, it just wasn't – the score doesn't tell the story of the game. They got 3 points, not from marching down the field, but from when we had to punt from the safety. They were already at the 50-yard line. I think they got 1 or 2 key penalties to put them in field goal range. They took 3 points. Not really earned on their end, just some mistakes on Miami's end. So, again, I'm not so down on Miami as maybe some of you are. And then the 7 points, they began to march down the field. A couple good first downs, but several penalties, and then they get into the red zone, and I believe they couldn't go 5 yards in like 9 plays. We just had 3 or 4 more penalties that essentially gave them 7 points. And then the game came down to it, and our defense did their job. So we got the win. I am happy about that. It's just ugly. But you take away the miscues and the penalties, and the game looks much better. And it was a game in which you mix that with conservative offensive play calling, which I think is intentional. That's a big reason this game looked close. So it's not all bad for Miami. But, guys, they got to fix some things on defense. I don't get not pressuring the quarterback. That's not a Manny Diaz defense, and it's on him to correct it. But every week something is being corrected. Again, like the starting out slow, I think that's a good trend for Miami. I've heard some people scream, fire Manny Diaz. Guys, it's absolutely ridiculous. We're 4 games in. This team has to build a culture. It has to build an identity, and that takes time, especially when you're young. You're going to see some games. We're going to lose some games this year that we shouldn't. It's going to still happen. And it's really going to be on youth. I really think it is. And then, our kicking game. We haven't had good special teams in a long time. But in this game, I will say, look, if we're going to trash Bubba when he does bad, in this game he hit his 1 field goal. Granted, it was after a miss, and they got a penalty, and he got to kick it again. But he made it. And then he saved a return for a touchdown. A 1-on-1 open field tackle on a kickoff. Had they got that, this game could have been different. We could have maybe lost. Baxa saved us there. So he gave us 3 points, and he saved us 7. That's a 10-point swing. You got to give Bubba Baxa credit on that. Kudos to that kid. Hopefully he got some confidence in. Because, look, we're going to have to kick field goals. And if he goes out and misses an easy chip shot against Virginia Tech, we're going to be going for it on 4th down a lot more this season. And that's going to put us in a bad situation. I really hope Diaz addresses the special teams coaching. That's got to be corrected. It hasn't been very good in a long time. But it's also Patke's first year. So a lot of first-time coaches, a lot of first-time guys in certain positions. Look, losing's inexcusable. We don't need it. It needs to be corrected as quick as possible. But it's going to take time. We've got to evaluate. Diaz needs time to evaluate. Screaming that he needs to be fired is ridiculous. You fire him, who are you going to hire? You know what I mean? I got in a debate with somebody today that said, Mike Leach is the greatest coach ever. And he's a fantastic coach. A guy that I'm a huge fan of. But at the same time that's being said, he's up 49-17 almost at the end of the third quarter. And UCLA, a really bad team with less talent, who's lost to San Diego State and has lost to Cincinnati, comes back and puts 66 or 67 points on Mike Leach and beats him when he's up 35 points almost in the fourth quarter. So I like Mike Leach, but I don't want to swap a good defense for a good offense. Then you'd be Florida State, right? Now you got a good offense. Now you can't stop anybody. You're still losing. I don't want to do that. Let's just evaluate. Let's fix. Let's add talent. And let's see. It's going to really be seen how much it is on the coaches coming into Virginia and Virginia Tech. You win those games, good chance we go to the ACC Championship. Pittsburgh's still there. Florida State's still there. But I think Miami would be in good standing. So, look, fix the third down package, in my opinion. Fix the kicking game. And let's open up the playbook offensively. All things that we can control. That has nothing to do with the other team. It's fixing us. It's getting us better. I think Miami can do it. I think they will do it. I'm going to continue to believe in the team. I'm excited, disappointed in the game, but I hope you kind of realize how some mistakes here, 1 or 2 bad calls here, and then being conservative makes a score look the way it did. It's not that Central Michigan is as good as Miami. It's not that the coaches are really bad. It's just a conglomeration of a new team, a new coach, and a young team. And this is what you got. And it may not be the last time you see it, but let's hope we have a bye week, we fix it, and coming into the new season we do better. I'm, again, trying to keep this short for you guys. I'm going to end it at that. Kevin will be back on with me next week. We will talk Virginia Tech, give a preview for that. I'm excited for the season. It's a win, guys. Everybody relax. Let's evaluate. Let's see where we're at. But remember, we're trying to win recruiting here. So whatever we got to do to win games, we have to. Let's do that. No expectation for a championship this year. Let's just win the games we should and get some recruiting classes in here. If you've listened all the way through and listened to my rambling by myself, we want to say thank you. As always, again, we'll have Kevin back here next week. We'll talk Virginia Tech. We hope you guys listen. Thanks for listening to this. We'll talk to you guys later.